Please welcome to the stage John J. DeGioia, President of Georgetown University, and President Bill Clinton, founder Clinton Foundation and 42nd President of the United States.
Well, good morning. It's my pleasure and privilege to welcome you here today for the inaugural lecture in a new series, the Clinton Lectures at Georgetown. This marks the beginning of a journey we will take together over the course of the coming years to learn from one of the most accomplished global leaders of our time and someone we are proud to call a son of Georgetown.
From 1945 and the end of the war through 1989 and the end of the Cold War, we had a worldview. Republican and Democratic presidents alike, from Harry Truman to George Bush, stood for freedom and stood for certain propositions that would make America strong and healthy and grow the middle class and shrink poverty and stand against communism. And after 1989, President Bush said, and it's a phrase that I often use myself, that we needed a new world order, and instead it looks like we got a lot of disorder.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome. And thank you for joining us for what promises to be an excellent day of discussions on the ethos and profession of intelligence. This is the first of its kind conference for CIA, which we are very excited about. And speaking of first, we had our first tweet last Friday, which we're also very excited about. Who knows, one of these days we may get our first positive press story, which will really excite us. Now, on behalf of all of us at CIA, we are indeed very fortunate to have this tremendous concentration of talent at Georgetown University, just down the river from our own campus. And I want to thank President DeGioia and everyone at Georgetown University for hosting us today. But now, it is my great pleasure and distinct honor to introduce a remarkable public servant, as well as a great friend, to provide the opening remarks. As you all know, Bob Mueller served as FBI director for 12 years before retiring in 2013. Throughout his tenure, Bob was a transformative leader, an outstanding partner to CIA, and a source of wise counsel to leaders across the intelligence community. Through it all, he set the highest standards of integrity and lived up to them every day. It was a great pleasure for me to be able to work with Bob in the earliest years of his tenure. And also, I had the honor to work with Bob in his last 5 years as FBI director. And at all times, Bob embodied what it means to be a true professional, a selfless patriot, who works tirelessly every day to keep this country safe. And so, without further ado, I welcome and express my personal appreciation and admiration for former FBI Director Bob Mueller.
Thanks, John.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, thanks, John, and thank everyone for being here. There's one topic that was not on the agenda today that I thought I would spend a few moments talking about, and that's the intersection of law enforcement and intelligence.
Can you believe what you have been seeing on CNN today, ladies and gentlemen? Can you believe it? Supposedly, a CNN reporter found Osama bin Laden, took a television camera crew with him, went into Osama bin Laden's hideout, interviewed him and his top leadership, his top lieutenants and colonels and generals in their hideout. This is a CNN reporter with a camera crew. And he came out and told everybody, within 3 weeks, Osama bin Laden is going to attack the United States and Israel. Now, don't you think that's kind of strange, folks? You see, because the largest intelligence apparatus in the world, with the biggest budget in the history of the world, has been looking for Osama bin Laden for years and years and years, and can't find him. The FBI also under the leadership of Louis Freeh, has been looking for Osama bin Laden for years and years and years and years and years and many years and can't find him. Some doofus jerk-off reporter with a camera crew waltzes right into his hideout and interviews him. Now, that tells us two things. Either everyone in the intelligence community and all of the intelligence agencies of the United States government are blithering idiots and incompetent fools, including the entire apparatus of the FBI and all of their personnel, or they're lying to us. They're not looking for him at all. And the second is the truth. You see, the CIA created Osama bin Laden. They recruited him. They trained him. They found his leadership. They brought them all together. They showed them how to fight the Soviet Union in Afghanistan, and when that was over, they still continued to fund him and train him, and they're now using him to help bring about world government by making him the big boogeyman because they can't use Saddam Hussein anymore. When did you start hearing of Osama bin Laden? It was after Saddam Hussein and Iraq were supposedly neutralized in the Gulf War because they needed a new boogeyman. But they're not looking for Osama bin Laden, because I'm telling you right now, if I were the head of the Central Intelligence Agency, within 2 weeks I would have him dead or in custody without fail. Without fail. If I had those assets and that money, he would be mine. I would own his terrorist ass within 2 weeks without fail. A reporter from CNN and his little camera crew got in to Osama bin Laden's secret hideout and conducted an interview. If you don't believe me, tune into CNN. They're probably running it right now as I'm speaking. And if you believe it, you are one of the stupidest jerks that ever lived on the face of this earth. And whatever is going to happen that they're going to blame on Osama bin Laden, don't you even believe it. Another socialusion, social engineering project to change the minds and the attitudes and the beliefs of the people of the world, and especially the United States, to bring about one world socialist totalitarian government. When in hell are all you people going to wake up? Are you kidding me?
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the stage Lindsay Bruinsma, an MBA candidate at the McDonough School of Business, John J. DeGioia, President of Georgetown University, Brian T. Moynihan, CEO of Bank of America, and Warren E. Buffett, Chairman of the Board and CEO of Berkshire Hathaway.
The values at the core of the work that we examine here tonight are defining characteristics of the tradition that animates our university community, a tradition rooted in our Catholic and Jesuit identity, a tradition that compels us to create and share knowledge in service to our world. As a university, we have been guided by this tradition since 1789, and now for over 224 years, we've been building upon and reimagining it in new and innovative ways. The GSEI, through its work to cultivate leaders who focus on both economic and social value, is a concrete example of our commitment to living this tradition in our contemporary world.
The Federal Reserve Bank is run by the Jesuits, and the Federal Reserve Bank is modeled after the papacy. I quote to you from a book titled Secrets of the Temple, How the Federal Reserve Runs the Country by William Greider, Greider. Simon Schuster. We look on page 55. Richard Syron, S-Y-R-O-N, a vice president of the Boston Fed, who served for a time as special assistant to Volcker, and here's another Irish Catholic, suggested that the institutional temperament and structure of the Federal Reserve System most resembled the Catholic Church. It doesn't say the synagogue of Satan. It says the Catholic Church, in which he had been raised. Quote, the system is just like the church. That is, the Federal Reserve System is just like the church. It's probably why I feel so comfortable with it. It's got a pope, the chairman, and a college of cardinals, the governors and bank presidents, and a curia, the senior staff. The equivalent of the laity is the commercial banks. If you're a naughty parishioner in the Catholic Church, you come to confession. In this system, if you're naughty, you come to the discount window for a loan. We even have different orders of religious thought, like Jesuits and Franciscans and Dominicans, only we call them pragmatists, monetarists, and neo-Keynesians, unquote. Here it is, the Federal Reserve System likened to the Catholic Church by an Irish Catholic himself who was a special assistant to Paul Volcker. If we look in Averell Manhattan's work, The Vatican Billions, he also tells us that the Vatican has gold stored in the Federal Reserve Bank. Now, I'll tell you, if there were a bunch of Jews running the Federal Reserve Bank, do you think the papacy would allow them to hold its gold if those Jews weren't subordinate to the Pope? No way! No way! If I was the Pope, I wouldn't. Anybody that holds my gold better be my servant than do what I tell him. Otherwise, you're not holding my gold. Doesn't that make sense?
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the stage Amu Menon, MBA student, David A. Thomas, Dean of the McDonough School of Business, John J. DeGioia, President of Georgetown University, Brian Moynihan, CEO of Bank of America, and Bono.
It's my pleasure to welcome all of you to Georgetown University and to Gaston Hall for this special evening with Bono. We're deeply appreciative of Bono for coming to the Hilltop and for sharing with us his experience, his insights, and his innovative leadership in social enterprise.
Pope Francis met at the Vatican with Bono Vox, the famous U2 singer, who took advantage of his European tour to stop in the smallest state in the world. He spoke with the Pope about how to improve the education of the children most in need.
Today, His Royal Highness will discuss a topic of national and global significance, the role of sustainable agriculture in addressing the world's most pressing issues, from environmental sustainability to global poverty to economic security. It is a great privilege to serve as a venue both for our nation and for the Academy, both of which strive to address the challenges of sustainability. And it is an honor to be a part of today's larger conference on the future of food, which has brought together some of the world's leading thinkers to contribute their knowledge and perspective to this important topic. Georgetown last had the opportunity to host His Royal Highness in the fall of 2005 when he participated in a seminar on faith and social responsibility. Since then, significant developments have been made in the field of sustainability, with heightened focus placed today on the impact of globalization on responsible consumption of our world's shared resources. The Prince of Wales has been a visionary leader in addressing this issue for nearly 30 years. He has been one of the world's most innovative and admired advocates of sustainable agriculture, ecosystem resilience, and green energy sources.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'm delighted to have been invited to open this year's critical Climate Week. The borderless climate, biodiversity and health crises are all symptoms of a planet that has been pushed beyond its planetary boundaries. Without swift and immediate action at an unprecedented pace and scale, we will miss the window of opportunity to reset for a green-blue recovery and a more sustainable and inclusive future. In other words, the global pandemic is a wake-up call we simply cannot ignore. Having been at this now for well over 40 years, I have long observed that people tend not to act until there is a real crisis.
Please welcome to the stage Professor Michael Bailey, Chair of the Department of Government, Ron Klain, and Kevin Spacey.
Good evening. My name is Michael Bailey. I'm the Chair of the Department of Government, and I'd like to welcome you to the Sullivan Lecture on Ethics in Government. This lecture is designed to help students confront the ethical issues that they have faced and will face as they work in the policy world on Capitol Hill, in the executive branch, at state level, or as engaged citizens.
Ma'am, sir, you're crazy. You've lost your mind. You're paying for sodomite priests to sodomize your son as an altar boy for the last 10 years. You paid them $2.6 billion now to give them the energy and the ability to sodomize your kids. You sacrifice your kids up to a bunch of sodomite freaks who have no bearing on God, don't know God, never have known God, know nothing about God. The Pope is basically illiterate concerning God. All the cardinals are, all the bishops are. These are a bunch of fruitcakes who are just playing with people's lives and destroying millions of people one by one. And all of a sudden, the evangelical Protestant church is strangely quiet, because they're afraid of the homosexual spirit that rules the Vatican. They're afraid of the sodomites. These are sodomites. These nuns, a lot of these nuns are nothing but lesbians. They hide out in these convents and in these rectories. And what a name for a place a priest lives. A rectory. A rectory. You know, I mean, what kind of mess is this, man? This is crazy. This is crazy.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us. Before we begin, I want to remind you that Georgetown University is committed to the free exchange of ideas and opinions and to respectful discourse. To that end, please respect the right of our guest, Senator Sanders, to speak without interruption. At the conclusion of this event, there will be an opportunity for Senator Sanders to respond to questions that have been submitted by the audience.
And that everybody was totally convinced that Castro was the worst guy in the world, that all the Cuban people were going to rise up in rebellion against Fidel Castro. Of land reform, giving for the first time in their lives real land to farmers so that they can have something that they grow. Nobody denies that they are making significant progress in those areas. By the time that Somoza was ready to go out, everybody despised this guy. And after he was gone, I think what many members of the Nicaraguan establishment felt, well, we got rid of that guy, now we'll get a nicer guy in there who will also protect the interests of the rich people, but not as viciously. Well, the Sandinistas apparently did not agree with that. They really were talking about a transformation of society, giving power to the poor people, to the working people.
At the time of these remarks, the Sandinista leaders Sanders was referring to were branded terrorists by the Reagan administration.
The Sandinista government, in my view, has more support among the Nicaraguan people, substantially more support than Ronald Reagan has among the American people.
The Jesuits will stop at nothing to wipe out the Protestants. He has sworn loyalty not to God, not to King, not to country, but the Jesuit has sworn loyalty to the Pope and the Pope alone. When Luther started the Protestant Reformation in the 15th century, the Pope was finished. No king would listen to him, but now there is papal revival because the Protestants have dropped the ball. The Pope claims to be the vicar of Christ, or God's mouthpiece on earth. You see, communism was a Jesuit invention. Marx and Stalin and Lenin were all trained and educated by the Jesuits. Somewhere along the line, we have to study Luther and the Reformation and exactly what was revealed to us 400 years ago about the Catholic Empire. Somewhere along the line, we have to get out of the nice, pretty sermons and start understanding what the heck is going on in this world. The Pope is not our friend. He, like all his predecessors, want to kill all Protestant Christians that reject him as God on earth. The Jesuits perfected the communist system. It's their baby. They placed it in Russia through the Bolshevik Revolution. It's the Jesuits that rose Hitler and Nazis to power. It's the Jesuits that killed 6 million Jews through their authority through Hitler.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the stage John J. DeGioia, President of Georgetown University, Stephen Radlett, Donald F. McHenry Chair in Global Human Development, Edmund A. Walsh School of Foreign Service, and Tony Blair, former Prime Minister of Great Britain and Northern Ireland.
Good afternoon. It's a privilege to welcome each of you to Georgetown University, and today we have the honor of hearing from Mr. Tony Blair, the former Prime Minister of Great Britain and Northern Ireland, and one of our generation's most renowned public servants. Mr. Blair, it's a privilege to welcome you back to Georgetown, and I look forward to introducing you more fully in just a few moments.
The answer is this. Accept the premise that faith is not in decline. It isn't disappearing inevitably under the weight of scientific and technological progress. It is still here with us, not just surviving, but thriving. In an era of globalization, of political interdependence, where the world is ever more swiftly opening up, and the cliché about a global community becomes an economic, political, often social reality. In this new world, how religious faith develops will have a profound impact. The forces shaping this world at this moment are so strong and they all tend in one direction. They are opening the world up. I sometimes say to people that in modern politics, the dividing line is often less between traditional left versus right, but more about open versus closed. Mass migration is changing communities, even countries. People communicate ideas and images instantly around the world, creating immediate political and ideological movements in a ferment of quickly devoured information. Economically, the world system is ever more dependent on confidence, robust when things are good, extraordinarily brittle when confidence dips. So the world is interdependent today, economically, politically, even to an extent, ideologically. The divide then is between those who see this as positive, the opening up, offering opportunity, and those who see it as threatening and therefore wish to close down.
I also want to welcome the members of our diplomatic corps, ambassadors of Finland, Kosovo, the Netherlands, Sweden, and Albania, as well as officials with the Canadian and British embassies. Georgetown has always recognized our obligation to engage with the pressing challenges of our time and to seek ways to contribute to the flourishing of our global community. As our president, Jack DeGioia, has observed, there are many approaches to the complex work of building sustainable peace or realizing the full development of our diverse societies. Yet one theme emerges: the importance that women are full participants and valued leaders in global affairs. And that is the focus of our coming together this morning. In December of 2011, then Secretary of State Hillary Clinton came to Georgetown to launch the U.S. National Action Plan on Women, Peace, and Security. On that occasion, the president of the university also announced the creation of the Georgetown Institute for Women, Peace, and Security. It would pioneer innovative research and scholarship that is evidence-based, work to bridge theory and practice, and bring together global leaders to advance women's participation in peace and security. As the secretary said at that time, whether it's ending conflict, managing a transition, or building a country, the world cannot afford to continue to ignore half the population. This is not a women's issue. It cuts to the heart of our national security and the security of people everywhere. The Institute recently released a new global index on women, peace, and security that was undertaken with our Norwegian partners. The index, for the first time, ranks 153 countries on the status of women's inclusion, justice, and security. We are thrilled that Secretary Clinton is back with us today.
One of the things they told me was that he was at the house one night, and we were talking, and he started laughing. He said, "Aaron, what do you think women's liberation was about?" And I said, I had pretty conventional thinking about it at that point. I said, I think it's about women having the right to work, getting equal pay with men, just like they won the right to vote, you know? And he started to laugh. He said, "You're an idiot." And I said, "Why am I an idiot?" He said, let me tell you what that was about. We, the Rockefellers, funded that. We funded Women's Lib, you know? And we're the ones who got all over the newspapers and television, the Rockefeller Foundation. He says, and you want to know why? He says, there were two primary reasons. And they were, one reason was we couldn't tax half the population. before women's lib. And the second reason was, now we get the kids in school at an early age. We can indoctrinate the kids how to think. It breaks up the family. The kids start looking at the state as the family, as the school, as the officials, as their family, not as the parents teaching them. And so those are the two primary reasons for women's lib, which I thought up to that point was a noble thing. You know, when I saw their intentions behind it, where they were coming from when they created it, the thought of it, I saw the evil behind what I thought was a noble venture.
I trust Vice President Biden that as you leave office, you leave so with a sense of personal contribution and satisfaction that only a full life of family love and public service can provide. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome the Vice President of the United States.
The affirmative task we have now is to actually create a new world order. Because the global order is changing again. And the institutions and rules that worked so well in the post-World War II era for decades, they need to be strengthened. And some have to be changed.
It's good to be back up on the Hill. It's good to be back in Gadsden Hall. My son Hunter, as a matter of fact, 5 Bidens have graduated from this great university. One of my 3 children, based on tuition, I think at least a sidewalk should be named after me or something. But one of my 2 sons, Hunter Biden, who's a brilliant young man, and 2 of my sister's children and 2 of my brother's children. And they all have, it's served them all incredibly well. I was thinking, President DeGioia, that as I walked out, the first time I walked on this stage was back when Father O'Donovan was president. And he asked me to deliver the most difficult speech I've ever delivered in my life. No speech, I mean this sincerely, that I work harder on. My son joined the Jesuit Volunteer Corps, and there was a retreat filled as this hall is today. And I was asked by Father whether I would come and speak on how my faith had informed my public policy.
But the end of these 2 wars affords us an opportunity. It allows us to refocus our intelligence and military assets and resources to other parts of the world where they are needed, where we face new challenges. This is the world you are graduating into. This is what I want to talk about today with you for a few minutes. I believe we, and particularly you, your class, has an incredible window of opportunity to lead in shaping a new world order for the 21st century in a way consistent with American interest and the common interest.
History tells us that during the War of 1812, after the Capitol was burned, Georgetown University offered to serve as a temporary site for the federal government. Well, we didn't take that offer, but as we celebrate the bicentennial of Georgetown's federal charter, it's a reminder of the special ties between the university and this government. Over the centuries, many Georgetown grads have gone into public service, including 16 current members of the House of Representatives. As a graduate of another great Jesuit institution, Xavier University, I have great affection for the value and purpose of a Jesuit education. With that in mind, it's my privilege, on behalf of the whole House, to recognize this bicentennial and congratulate Georgetown on all its accomplishments.
Hello, Georgetown. As your neighbor, I thought I'd say hello and congratulate you on the 200th anniversary of your charter. A lot's happened in Washington over 2 centuries, and Hoyas have always been at the center of the action. Georgetown graduates have gone on to serve as president of this country and other countries, as members of Congress, and even as basketball-crazed senior advisors working down the hall from me in the West Wing. Over the years, you've welcomed countless international students, just as Georgetown students are known for serving all over the world. Your graduates crowd the ranks of Peace Corps volunteers. Simply put, this country and this world benefit from your commitment to Jesuit principles, to being men and women for others. Here's to the next 200 years. Happy birthday, and Hoya Saxa.
As a community, Georgetown is committed to the creation and dissemination of knowledge that contributes to human flourishing and the common good. You may see written on the wall behind me the Latin phrase, ad maiorem Dei gloriam inque hominum salutem. The first half of this phrase, ad maiorem Dei gloriam, is the motto of the Jesuits. It means for the greater glory of God. As a university in the Jesuit tradition, all of our work is for God's greater glory. And because of our tradition, we are also committed to work for the betterment of humankind. And that is the second half of the phrase, inque hominum salutem.
We're going to get into a topic that, again, some people have heard about the Jesuits. Some people have never heard of the Jesuits. The people who have heard of them do not really understand the power and the control that they have. Most people have heard about the Illuminati, the Council of 13, the Committee of 300, the Trilateral Commission, the Council on Foreign Relations, and so on and so forth. But the Jesuits, in my view, is a whole different ball of wax. And at the end of the day, most of all of what I just mentioned culminates into the Jesuit order. Is that fair to say?
Yes. I would say absolutely yes.
Okay. Yep. So how do we start with who are the Jesuits? So for the folks out there that are listening to the show, Jesuits 101, how do we explain to them who they are? Where do we start?
The Jesuits have been in power under Vatican. They're essentially the military arm of the Vatican. They have their military arm of the Jesuits is called the Knights of Malta. You may have heard of the Maltese Cross. The Columbus, Christopher Columbus on his ships had the Maltese Cross, the red shield. Red shield is related to the Rothschilds, which means red shield. And they were founded under the Vatican to establish basically rule over all dominion over all what they call heretics and Christians. And because they're the divine right of God, they have the right, and they put it into Roman Latin law, which we're still under today. Also, our currency is under Roman currency as well, maritime law. And so it's all tied back to the Vatican, which is part of the Trilateral. You may have heard of the Trilateral Commission. Well, they refer to the 3 city-states of Washington, D.C., the City of London, and the Vatican. And each of these city-states are beholden to no country, have their own mayor, their own police force, actually their own constitution, which we can get into a little bit later. And they've just decided that because Roman Catholicism has to be the overarching power that is the representative of God, and since they're the representative, they get to make the rules, that they hold dominion of all souls and all land. And they passed some laws back in the 13 and 1400s, what we can get into under trust, and that's how our Roman Latin law system got established that we're still using today. They rule by secrecy. They're masters of deception. If you've heard their name, if you see them, in power, they have handlers, they have people right behind them or right next to them to make sure that they don't get out of line. And those are the names you don't hear, which we'll be bringing up a little bit later. But basically, they've been behind the scenes for a very long time. They've caused a tremendous amount of pain and suffering. Just the Spanish Inquisition is one. World War II, Operation Keyhole, when they sent over 5 million Orthodox Christians back to Russia after World War II in sealed cars with Dwight D. Eisenhower and FDR's approval. And those people were basically either put in the gulags or killed when they arrived in Russia because they fled Russia to get away from World War II, and then they were sent right back. So they've held military power, and they use it through what they call Jesuit assistancies. And these assistancies are in Central Europe, East Europe, South Europe, West Europe, North Latin America, Africa, East Asia, South Latin America, and the USA assistancy. And through these assistancies and through their religious connections, they are able to affect policies of their own secret ways to influence governments, to influence the financial world, to influence the media, whatever direction they want to take. And when you get into the whole legacy of the Jesuits, you're going back easily 500 to 1,000 years or more. And maybe, Bruce, you can talk about that from 1,000 years ago, how they got started with that.
You know, they do, everything is in a veil of secrecy, so we try to piece together as much as we can. I do want to read you a quote here, which I think everybody has heard of, but maybe the origins are a little bit cloudy, is the ends justifies the means. That is the Jesuit maxim. So whatever it takes to get it done, regardless of collateral damage, doesn't matter. They're going to do what they're going to do, and that's because their sole aim is to accomplish that specific task.
What is it that they're trying to get done?
Ultimately, what they're trying to get done is to bring in the New World Order. And what is the New World Order, right?
Right.
The New World Order is going back to the old way it was, the old world order, which is a feudal serf system, fascism, global fascism, period. That's it really, and that's certainly, that's all it is in a nutshell. But I'd like to read you a quick quote here, which I find very interesting. It says, "My history of the Jesuits is not eloquently written, but is supported by the unquestionable authorities and is very particular and very horrible. The Jesuit order's restoration in 1814 by Pope Pius VII is indeed a step towards darkness, cruelty, despotism, and death. I do not like the appearance of the Jesuits. If ever there was a body of men who merited eternal damnation on earth and in hell, it's the Society of Jesus," or Ignatius de Loyola, who was the founder, Ignatius Loyola. John Adams, 1735 to 1826, second president of the United States. And throughout our talk today, I think we'll be able to deposit many good quotes there, right, Jamie?
Well, I just was looking at another one from John Adams. My history, not from John Adams, from Woodrow Wilson. Since I entered politics, I've chiefly had men's views confided to me privately, some of the biggest men in the United States. They know that the power is somewhere is organized, so subtle, so watchful, so interlocked, so complete, so pervasive, that they had better not speak above their breath when they speak in condemnation of it. Samuel Morse of Morse Code: "The Jesuits are a secret society, a sort of Masonic order with super-added features of revolting odiousness and 1,000 times more dangerous." So we have just many, many, many quotes of the Jesuit order, but it was never been brought to the common day forefront of knowledge. We're never taught anything about this. This was a Canadian historian, J.E.C. Shepherd. Between 1555 and 1931, the Jesuit Society of Jesus was expelled from at least 83 countries, cities, states, and cities for engaging in political intrigue and subversion plots against the welfare of the state, according to the records of the Jesuit priest of repute, Thomas Campbell. Practically every instance of expulsion was for political intrigue, political infiltration, political subversion, and inciting to political insurrection.